him. Whether you killed him or not, the ritual will show. That is why we do it. Now you drink. This is the water used to wash his body.
No!
Everybody who knew Sade and Ella in school knew one thing. Ella had the life Sade wanted. They were best friends since their first year in university. They shared everything. A hostel room, jollof rice on broke days, secrets at midnight. But underneath all of that warmth, Sade carried something heavy, something she smiled through, something she prayed no one could see: jealousy. It was not the loud kind. Sade's jealousy was quiet. It lived behind her eyes when she hugged Ella. It sat in her chest when she said congratulations. It whispered in her ear at night when she lay on her bed alone. Because Ella always had what Sade wanted: men, money, peace. Every man Sade dated was broke, confused, or both. One collected her recharge cards and disappeared. Another borrowed 5,000 naira and blocked her number. Another had a whole wife and 3 children somewhere in Ibadan that he forgot to mention. Sade had a gift, the wrong kind, for attracting men who would take everything and leave nothing. But Ella had Kola. Kola was not a student. He was already working, already built, already established. He drove a clean car. He wore good shoes. He called when he said he would call. He did not borrow, he gave. When he came to visit Ella on campus, the whole hostel corridor noticed. The girls whispered. Sade smiled and said, "Your man is so fine, Ella." And Ella, sweet, trusting Ella, would just laugh and say, "God will send yours soon, Sade. Just wait." Sade waited and waited and waited. The day they graduated, Kola organized a party, not a small gathering, a real party, with food, drinks, decorations, the kind of thing you remember for years. And right there, in front of everyone, he went down on one knee and asked Ella to marry him. The crowd screamed. The girls cried happy tears. Sade clapped. She hugged Ella. She said, "I'm so happy for you." But inside, something cracked. The wedding was grand. That is the only word for it. Sade was a bridesmaid. She danced. She laughed. She gave a speech that made people cry. And when the night ended and she drove herself home in a small borrowed car, she sat in the dark for a long time before she could bring herself to go inside. Why not me? The question she could never say out loud. But life moved on. Ella and Kola settled into their big house. Ella never forgot Sade. She called. She visited. She dropped cash gifts without being asked. When Sade's rent was due, Ella quietly sent the money. Ella was the kind of friend people pray for, and Sade received all with a smile, while the jealousy inside her grew bigger, heavier, darker. She wanted that house. She wanted that husband. She wanted that life. She just did not yet know how far she was willing to go to get it. It started on a Tuesday night. Sade was lying on her bed, scrolling through Instagram, watching other people's lives slide past her screen. A trip to Dubai, a new car, an engagement, another engagement. Then an advert stopped her scroll. It was a vendor, a woman selling waist beads, not ordinary ones, local ones. The caption read, "Kaya Mata, the original. The one that works. Any man that touches you will never leave. Tested and trusted." Sade rolled her eyes and kept scrolling, but her thumb slowed down. She went back. She clicked on the comments. That was her first mistake. The comments were full of women, hundreds of them. Some wrote long testimonies. Some were short and certain. "It worked for me. He bought me a car 3 weeks after. My own story is too long to type. Just order it. This woman is genuine. I can verify." Sade read comments after comments. Some part of her was laughing. Another part was reading very carefully. She went to the vendor's page. Thousands of followers, more testimonies, more evidence, more women saying the same thing with different faces. The Kaya Mata, they explained, was a special waist bead A woman would wear it and sleep with a man just once, and that man would be locked. He would think about her constantly. He would buy things he would want to please her. He would not be able to pull away no matter how hard he tried. Sade sat up straight on her bed. She thought about Kola, rich, stable. She opened the DM. She asked for the price. When the vendor replied, Sade paid without sleeping on it. The kayamata arrived in a small wrapped package, a waist bead, dark and threaded with small stones. Sade put it on. Then she began to plan. She started visiting Ella more. She would come on weekends and stay the whole day, cooking, laughing, being the perfect friend. When Kola came home, she was just there, natural, warm, easy. She dressed carefully on those days, nothing obvious, just enough. She started small, a touch on his arm when she said goodbye, a laugh that lasted a little too long when he made a joke, eye contact. Kola noticed. He was not looking for trouble. He was a man who thought he was in control. He told himself it meant nothing. He told himself he was stronger than whatever he was feeling. He told himself he would never do that to Ella. He told himself a lot of things. Then Sade started visiting his office. Kola held on for longer than he should have. But the thing about a trap, you do not feel it closing until it is already closed. One evening, when Ella was traveling for a work conference, Sade came to the house. Kola fell. He told himself it was once. He did not know that the kayamata had already done its work. He did not know that from that night, he was not the same man anymore. Kola could not stop thinking about Sade. It disturbed him. He would be sitting with Ella at dinner and his mind would drift. He would be in a meeting and lose his train of thought. He called Sade's number 3 times before he could stop himself. When she did not pick, he called again. Sade knew exactly what was happening. She watched him come to her. She received the cash transfers. She received the gifts. She received the car on her birthday and sent Ella a photo of it saying, "My mysterious admirer, Sha." Ella was happy for her. "You see, God is faithful. I always knew your own would come," she said. Sade read the message and laughed. The affair continued for months. Secret, hungry, dangerous. Then one morning, Sade looked at a calendar and understood something cold and certain. She was pregnant. She sat with this information for 3 days. She did not panic. She thought, she calculated, she saw very clearly what this pregnancy could become if she played it right. She called Kola. She told him. There was silence on the phone for so long. Then the back and forth began. He wanted her to handle it quietly. She refused. He pleaded. She stood firm. He threatened to cut everything off. She reminded him calmly that Ella did not yet know any of this. Kola went quiet again. Sade waited. She knew the kayamata was still working. She could feel it in the way he always came back, in the way he could not stay away even when he tried. 2 weeks later, Kola called her. "I'm coming to take you home," he said. Sade smiled. Ella was in the kitchen when she heard the car pull in. She wiped her hands and opened the door, expecting Kola. He had been strange lately, distant, distracted, but she had told herself he was stressed from work. She had cooked his favorite meal. She had planned a quiet evening. She opened the door. Kola was there, and standing beside him with a small traveling bag and a flat expression was Sade. Ella blinked. Then she smiled. "Sade, what a surprise." "She's staying," Kola said. The sentence did not make sense at first. Ella looked at her husband, then at her friend, then at her husband again. "She's pregnant," Kola continued. "With a boy, my heir. You've given me 2 girls, and we need a male child. She will be my second wife. You will treat her with respect. You will not stress her. She is carrying something important." Ella did not scream. She did not throw anything. She looked at Sade, her best friend since university, the girl she had fed, funded, clothed, celebrated, and she saw something in Sade's face that she had never noticed before. satisfaction. That night, Ella locked her bedroom door and cried until she had no more water in her body. She cried for her marriage. She cried for her children. She cried for the 10 years of friendship she had poured into a woman who had been plotting against her. She cried until the crying was finished. Then she got up, washed her face, and made a decision. She would survive this. Sade moved in and immediately expanded to fill the space. She complained about the food Ella cooked. She said the house was not clean enough. She told Kola that Ella's attitude was making her stress levels dangerous for the baby. Kola would come home and repeat everything Sade said to Ella like instructions. Cook her meals separately. She doesn't like pepper. Her bathroom needs to be cleaned every day. She said you were rude to her this morning. Don't let it happen again. And Ella did it all. She cooked, she cleaned, she swallowed every humiliation like medicine. Sade would walk past her in the corridor and barely acknowledge her. She would sit in the living room and put on programs Ella hated. She would call her friends on the phone loudly and talk about the baby coming. A son, my dear, the first son of this house. Every word was aimed, every word landed. But Ella did not break. She bent, but she did not break. Then Sade went further. She called Kola into the bedroom one night and told him she could not stay in that house with Ella, that it was too much tension for her and the baby, that he had to choose. Send her away, Sade said. Her and those 2 girls, or I go back to my own place and you can come and see your son from there. Kola did not argue. He did not think about his daughters. He did not think about the 10 years Ella had been beside him. He did not even pause. The next morning, he told Ella to pack. Ella packed her clothes and her daughter's clothes and left the house where she had spent a decade building a life. She had no parents she could run to. They were both gone. She called an old colleague, a woman named Bisi, who had a spare room and a kind spirit, and Bisi said without hesitating, "Come, the room is yours." Ella arrived at Bisi's house with 2 bags and 2 daughters and the quiet dignity of a woman who refused to be destroyed. That first night, after she put the girls to sleep, she sat outside in the small compound and looked at the sky for a long time. In the weeks that followed, something shifted in Ella. The grief was still there. She was not made of stone. She cried sometimes when the girls were asleep, but underneath the grief was a clarity she had never felt before, a hard, quiet knowing. She had skills, she had contacts from her working years. She had a brain that had been underused because she had spent the last years making a home for someone who threw her out of it. She started small, supplying food items to offices, then catering for small events, then bigger events. She was good at it. People called back. They referred her. They placed standing orders. Ella worked. She worked like someone who understood that survival was not a guarantee, but a choice made daily. But this story is not really about Ella's victory. Not yet, because in that big house on the other side of town, something was about to happen that no Kayamata could have prepared Sade for. The pregnancy was going well. Sade walked through the house like she owned every corner of it, which, as far as she was concerned, she did. She had the man, she had the house, she had the hair growing inside her. She had won. She called her friend Tammy and laughed on the phone for an hour about how life had finally rewarded her. Then one morning, Sade was still asleep when she heard a sound from the other side of the house. Kola was getting ready for work. He had his coffee. He was tying his shoes. He stood up and collapsed. The sound his body made hitting the floor was something Sade would never forget. She screamed. The gatesman ran in. They could not wake him. They rushed him into a car and drove fast to the nearest hospital. The doctors worked on him for a long time. Then a doctor came out and his face said everything before his mouth did. Kola was gone. Sade stood in the hospital corridor and felt the wall tilt sideways. She held the wall. She screamed. She cried. The gateman stood nearby, not knowing where to look. They drove home in silence. Sade sat in the big living room. Her living room, she reminded herself, and cried for one full hour. Then she dried her eyes. Then she called Temi. "He is dead," she said. Ah, Sade, I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry. I'm the wife. I'm the mother of his son. Everything in this house is mine now. Everything in its account. Everything. There was a pause on the line. But what about his family? Temi asked. What if they try to take things from you? Sade laughed, a short, sharp laugh. Try, Ke. This is not olden days. I know my rights. There are laws. I have a marriage certificate. I have his son. They dare not come near me with their village nonsense. This is a new generation. We are not doing tradition in this house. She said it with so much confidence. She believed every word. They carried Kola's body to his village for the final burial. Sade went. Of course she went. She was the wife. She was the mother of his son. She would go and be seen, and then she would come back to Lagos and begin the business of inheriting everything. The village was different from what she had expected. Quiet, old, the kind of place that moved at its own speed and cared nothing for the rules of the city. The first day was fine. There was mourning, there was food. There were relatives whose names she did not know, greeting her with heavy eyes. Then, on the second day, 3 men came to where she was sitting. They explained calmly that before the final burial, there were rituals to perform on Kola's body. That part of the process required her presence, that they would need to shave her hair. Sade stood up. Shave my what? She had not come here for this. She had expensive hair. She had a baby to take care of. She had properties to secure back in Lagos. She had zero interest in village rituals and ancestral customs and whatever else these men were suggesting. She told them all of this. She told them about her rights. She told them about the law. She told them that these things were archaic, that they were barbaric, that she had not agreed to any of this when she married Kola, that Yoruba people she knew in Lagos did not do any such thing, and that she would be driving back to Lagos to report this to the appropriate authorities. The men listened. They did not argue. They waited for her to finish. Then the oldest of them simply nodded once and said, "Go." Sade walked to her car. She was shaking slightly, but she told herself it was anger, not fear. She pressed the key fob. She reached for the door handle. 3 men she had not heard approaching were already there. They did not speak. They did not explain. They simply lifted her, her protests, her kicks, her screams, and carried her into a room at the back of the compound. They took her phone. The men left and a woman came in. Sade was crying now, shaking. All the city confidence had cracked like dry clay. "I did not kill my husband," she said. "I swear I didn't. I loved him. The woman looked at her for a long moment. "Whether you killed him or not, the ritual will show," she said simply. "That is why we do it." They removed her expensive black mourning gown. They tied a black wrapper around her. They brought her outside where the sun was already moving west and the compound had gathered, silent and watching. Kola's body, bathed and wrapped, lay in its coffin beside the grave that had been dug. 2 men held Sade's hand, one on each side. The woman came forward with a razor blade. Sade closed her eyes and cried. She said she had not done anything. She said this was not fair. She said she was a modern woman and this was not right. The woman began to shave. The hair fell in clumps around Sade's feet. The blade was not gentle, but it was thorough. When the woman finished, Sade's head was bare, a smooth, exposed, naked thing that looked nothing like the woman who had arrived in Lagos confident and loud and certain. "You enjoyed his money," the woman said quietly, not unkindly. "Now you drink his water. This is the water we used to bathe your husband." They brought a small bowl. Inside it was the water they had used to wash Kola's body. Sade looked at it and something ancient and terrified moved through her. "No," she whispered. Nobody moved. Nobody argued. The woman simply held the bowl to her lips and waited. Sade drank. She choked. She cried. She made sounds no human language has a word for. She finished the bowl. Then they lowered Kola's body into the earth and covered him. When it was over, Sade expected to go home. She asked for her phone. She asked for her car keys. She said she was heavily pregnant and needed to get back to Lagos immediately. That this village was no place for a woman in her condition. The family gathered. The oldest man spoke. He said that in their family, when a wife's husband dies, the widow does not simply live. She's taken care of, provided for, kept within the family. It was not cruelty, it was tradition. It was how things were done. She would marry Kola's younger brother. His name is Bayo, the man said. He is a good man. Sade laughed, the kind of laugh that has no joy in it. You people are joking, she said. They were not joking. She tried everything. She raised her voice. She invoked her rights. She demanded her phone to call a lawyer, to call the police, to call anyone. She said she would scream until someone outside heard her. She said she would not stay in that village for one more day. The oldest man looked at her the way a person looks at someone who still does not understand. If you try to run, he said, you will not reach the road before you vomit blood and die. Sade looked at the faces around her, the women, the men, the elders, and understood something that froze her from the inside out. These people were not afraid of her. All this time, she had been counting on fear. Fear of law, fear of scandal, fear of the modern world. And these people looked at her the way the ocean looks at someone threatening it with a cup. The wedding ritual was performed that same evening. Brief, binding, without her cooperation, but without needing it. That was how Sade became Bayo's fourth wife. Bayo was not a rich man. He was not scholar. He had 3 other wives already. This was the life the Kayamata had brought her to. Through all of it, Sade was heavily pregnant. Her stomach was big and tight, and her back ached, and her feet were swollen, and nobody in that compound cared. A few days after the first marriage, it began. The pain came in waves at first. She hit the wall of the small room they had given her. There was no hospital nearby, or if there was, nobody offered to take her. The women of the compound came. They knew what to do. Sade labored in that room in the village. She pushed her son into the world. He was born silent. The women worked on him. They turned him. They tried the things they knew to try. He did not cry. The baby boy she had planned everything around. The hair, the insurance, the reason she had seduced Kola, the reason she had destroyed Ella's home, the reason she had demanded to be the only wife. He had come into the world and looked at it and left. Sade held the small still body and made no sound. There are no words for what happens inside a person when they lose a child, regardless of how that child came into the world. The grief was real, the emptiness was real, and it sat on top of everything else she was carrying, like the last stone on a wall that had already taken too much weight. On the 3rd night after her son's burial, Bayo came to her room. Her body had not yet recovered from the labor. She was weak, she was bleeding. She was broken in ways that had no name. She told him no. She said she needed time. Bayo did not leave. He said she was his wife. He said it the way people say things they have said before to other people who could not stop them. She cried. She begged. She turned to the wall. He stayed anyway. And Sade, who had come to that village with her expensive morning gown and her Kayamata confidence and her certainty that the law and the new generation would protect her, Sade lay in the dark, 3 days postpartum, childless, husbandless, phoneless, and understood, fully and finally, the kind of trap she had built with her own hands. This was the harvest of what she had planted. Every choice she had made, every single choice had led here. No way out. Somewhere in Lagos, Ella was alive, more than alive. Her business had grown from a small catering operation to something that took up a full office and employed 12 people. She had moved out of Bisi's spare room into her own place, a clean, bright apartment where her daughters had their own rooms and went to a good school and did not know the full story of what had happened, only that sometimes life changes and you change with it.